You're going to need some extra virgin olive oil. You're going to need a little cup to put it in. You're going to need some salt and some pepper and some other herbs that you might like. For example, oregano and maybe some thyme, or maybe some sage and some marjoram. So you decide on what flavor you like for your croutons. And I want to show you the bread and how it's supposed to look. Just bring it up like this. And it should just be lightly toasted. And we're going to lay that down here onto a cookie sheet. Okay, while that last little bit is toasting, I'm going to go ahead and take my extra virgin olive oil. And I'm just going to pour some in. We need quite a bit. There's quite a bit here to brush on. There we go. I guess that's the end of my olive oil. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of salt. Going to add the pepper. We're going to add our thyme. Remember, you just go the opposite direction here. And you roll it in your fingers or in the palm of your hand, just like that right there. A pinch of my sage. Be sure and rub that in really well as well. I think it needs a little bit more sage. My hands were a little bit wet there. Just a hint of oregano. I don't want much oregano at all, but there we go. Just a hint. I don't want to overpower the thyme or the sage that I have in here. And I think it's going to take a little bit more salt. A little bit more pepper. You'll know when you got it right. And if you want to steep it for a little while, you can add the stems here from the thyme in as well. Okay, these are really nice and dry from the garden. Now we're just going to take a pastry brush and kind of blend that together. See that? Making a nice thing. Now we're going to let that steep for probably about maybe 5 minutes. That's about the same size. That's about the same size. Now we're just going to decide on the size of our croutons. That works for me. Okay. Thing here. Remember, we're going to put these in the oven, so it's okay. That's why I'm lightly toasting them. Just makes it a lot easier to cut them and to brush them without them getting all soggy with the oil if you toast them up a little bit first. That's why I said these might have needed to be toasted maybe a little bit more. And you can dry it out in the open air as well if you'd like. You can just dry them out first. Get some of that moisture out of them first. And if you want, you could even brush the bread, you know, like this, and brush it while it's one piece. Now, I'm going to coat these, so it doesn't really matter. Like I said, this is nice because you can make them the size you need them to be, and your guests are going to know, hey, look, these are real croutons that you made with real homemade bread. So this way, nothing goes to waste. And see, I can make them much smaller as well for tiny mouths, like little kids. So see, I can also make them pretty tiny as well. Make them however you like them. I just find that they freeze up a little bit nicer and they keep their shape and they taste a little fresher when they're a little larger. So that's just my opinion. We're going to go back here to the same cookie sheet and we're just going to put a layer of oil here on the bottom. It has all the herbs and stuff in it. Just to keep them from sticking. A piece of rosemary in there, which is fine. Make it nice and oily. That's fine, because we're going to do this in a thin layer. Make sure you get those herbs on there. There we go. Now we're just going to take and we're going to spread out our croutons on here just like this. And by the way, the crumbs, I'm sure you can find a use for them as well. But, all right, now I'm just going to preheat my oven to 225 degrees. All right, my oven is preheating at 225 degrees. Again, I'm just going to continue to break down some of the larger pieces here. I want them to dry up pretty well, pretty even, so I don't have any ones that are going to get moist in the freezer. Now I'm going to flatten these out, spread them out into one layer. So there's none on top of each other here. I want them all to get nice and coated with the flavoring. And I'm just going to take my hands and just gently kind of coat them into that flavoring on the bottom. The bottom's nice and coated. But now I'm going to kind of push them together here just a little bit to make them easier to brush and to coat. Now we're just going to take and we're just going to start coating just like this right here. Trying to hit them all at least once. Good. You can really smell this. I love the smell of freshly opened olive oil and the taste when it's fresh like this. Now you don't want to put on too much olive oil. You don't want to get them too wet. You just want to make sure that you get some olive oil and some spices on each one. You really want those flavors to pop in your mouth when you have your salad or your dressing or whatever you're going to make with these. I mean, you can make homemade stuffing and dressing for a bird, whatever. All right, now I'm just going to kind of flip that on there. Get all that on there, waste not, want not. I'm going to take my hands, they're clean, just washed them, and I'm going to give them a toss, just like this, to a single layer again after tossing them together. Okay, now we're going to slip these in the 225 degree oven. Oh, for probably maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Just keep checking them. When you check, be sure and grab a larger piece and then break it, and it should be nice and hard all the way through. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll just turn my oven off and I'll let them sit in there an additional 10 to 15 minutes just to make sure that I got them nice and crunchy. Now spread them out, spread them thin, have some room between them so they got air and a way to dry. Okay, we're going to slip these in a preheated 225 degree oven. My oven is convection, so if you need to adjust your oven temperature for your particular oven, that's fine. For 15 minutes. Okay, these have been in the oven for probably, I ended up putting them on 225 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 to 30 minutes. Because some of these were actually pretty good size. The best way to test one is to get one of the larger ones here and bite into it. Hear that crunch? That means they're done. They could still go and dry out a little bit longer, but they're not burned or anything. So now I've got the oven off, and I'm just gonna even leave the door shut in there. I think that's fine. And you can even leave the oven light on if you want to. And I'm going to finish drying them out. So I'll come back and get them in probably about an hour. And we will see you back here then. I'm just going to put these into a bag. And we're going to let them, we'll let them cool on the cookie sheet. We'll put them into a bag. And then, and that will be it. We can freeze these for up to 2 months. Or we can use these. All right? Perfect. And it tastes so good when it's from homemade bread like that. Oh my goodness. Alright, so this is Chef and Builder Janie Pendleton. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of how to make croutons with your 3 or 4 day old bread, homemade bread from your bread machine, or any bread in that matter. We love you. Go with God. Be sure and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video. Support our channel. And we hope that you have a wonderful, awesome week ahead. Blessings.